Alright, we're just gonna normal this guy, and he should banish their entire board. No chain. Oh, he's definitely quitting after that one. Yes! Welcome back, duelists, and in today's video we're going to be bringing you a deck that I've been testing out a lot recently, and it has been a ton of fun, and that is Primite Runick. And that is because Primites are one of the latest archetypes out of Rage of the Abyss, and have caught a lot of players' attention primarily because they are overall support to any vanilla creature. And then the Primite spell and trap support cards themselves have insane, potentially meta-breaking effects. And not only that, but the Primites are actually splashable in a variety of decks, such as the Domain build. And this has a lot of players excited about the archetype. But we're primarily going to focus on the Primite Runick deck, because that has been yielding the best results against the current meta game. And now, the Primite Runick deck is pretty controlling and actually able to shotgun out Chaos Angel very quickly with the Hugin as well as Cosmo Queen variant. And then the deck can actually special summon Cosmo Queen pretty efficiently, being able to go into it with the 2000 off the Roar, or being able to special summon it off the Primite Lordly Load. And then using that to synchro with the Hugin, who's a light, and then the Dark Cosmo Queen, you're actually able to synchro directly into the Chaos Angel right then and there, and this will shut down plenty of meta dex fields right off the rip. And unless they're playing things like the Infinite Impermanence or the Forbidden Droplets, they're going to be in quite a predicament. And now, as we see in a bunch of these replays, the Chaos Angel is going to be the main go-to in the beginning phases of the turn. And then since half the time you're utilizing Hugin to go into the Chaos Angel, you either already established a fountain on the board with some draws, or are ready to go on the opponent's board with some spells in the hand to interrupt them further. And now, while it might seem a little counterproductive that we're summoning big vanilla monsters or Chaos Angel as well as skipping our next battle phase, but once you actually see how many resources this deck is able to generate and then prevent your opponent from using, whether you're blowing up cards with the Runick spells or actually banishing their cards with things like the Drill Beam or the Roar. Either way, you're going to be establishing more resources than your opponent, and your deck just pays in dividends. And the nice thing about the deck is that with the Runicks and the Primite, they really do work together because of how much they can actually snowball. With the Runicks, you're constantly drawing by playing them, and then with the Primites, they're continually summoning every turn with the Primite Lordly. And then with cards like the Howl and the Roar, banishing from the graveyard to interrupt your opponent during their turn, or even the Drill Beam to constantly be negating and banishing an opponent's card every turn if you have the Imperial Dragon on the board. We're seeing how that over time this deck can become extremely oppressive, and that is not even mentioning that the Runicks are banishing cards and resources from the top of the opponent's deck. But then you get into the insane tech of cards such as Card Scanner, which essentially every turn is adding the bottom card of your deck to your hand. And as we've seen in Runick, this is pretty game breaking. But we also include cards such as Succumbing Song Morganite, and then the all important Time Tearing Morganite. So every turn you're drawing twice, you get extra summons, and then anytime you deal damage with any of your monsters to a monster, that damage is doubled. And then at times I know the deck will actually have some interesting hands, and you will definitely have to be on top of your gameplay to play out of what the opponent is throwing at you. But the deck overall can handle a variety and a majority of the meta decks. And then at the very least of it, you can basically go into a Runick combo yourself, maybe flip the skill drain, deck the opponent out. You still have the options, because even when utilizing this deck and just playing for the Chaos Angel or playing for the kill, I will notice that I have drained my opponent's deck down without even trying, and that definitely is an added benefit to the deck. And I do want to add, one of the best parts of this deck is you can just go right into Baguska as well. And with Baguska in the format we are in, just being able to go into a monster that will prevent your opponent from drawing if they will charm you, it won't get out of hand, as well as lock down their primary turns. This is very effective, and at the beginning of the testing was kind of what we were going into, and then we added ways to go into cards such as Chaos Angel, making the deck have a little more teeth. But it is a viable strategy if you do just need to sit on cards like Baguska, like Chaos Angel, because as we mentioned, the resources from this deck do just flood in, just from having multiple draws, multiple adds, and then the card scanner going from the bottom of the deck to the hand. It really is nice. And then another nice thing about the deck is how well it utilizes cards such as Heatwave. Not only can you activate your Primite Roar or your Runick spells during your draw phase or standby phase, and this does get around cards like Throwing Lockbird, but it also lets you utilize cards like Heatwave to a whole new level, allowing you to summon out your monsters, set up for a decent play or a little bit more of a starter, and then your opponent is going to be unable to summon during their following turn. And then a lot of the times when Yugioh does have its discard, you can discard some of the Primite support cards that will be utilizing their effects in the graveyard, such as Howl or Roar, and that definitely does go a long way. And again, we did stick on the Runick Primite because of how well it handles the meta deck. Being able to drop a Chaos Angel on the first turn really does, turn the tides in quite your favor. But on top of that, of having all the answers in your hand, a bunch of quick play spells that you can actually play against the opponent, break their board with the Runick stuff, and then proceed to a nice board with utilizing more Runick spells as well as vanillas that can be summoned directly from the deck. This actually puts you into a decent spot. And then on top of that, you're cranking out monsters with pretty large attack. So even if you have to go big bully beatdown with just the vanillas, at the end of the day, you're still going to be coming out with the win. And this kind of does have that little surprise factor that when you start beating up on a meta deck, they're like, yo, I'm losing to a Blazing and Pachi. What's going on? And you got to love when opponents do start misplaying because you are playing a very, what they consider suboptimal deck, but it's really the best. And again, I want to note that you do have to be careful with the deck because there are a few lines of plays that can trip you up. And as we see in the video, even with some of the games that the deck would definitely pull out a win, with some misplays from the user called Vengeful Shadows, it can result in a loss. But don't hate the deck, hate the player. And now, to the players out there that are interested in your own version of the Primite deck, I definitely recommend giving it a test because it is a lot of fun and can really enhance your deck. They can go into all sorts of things, whether that's the Primite domain that we saw, Primite Runick that we're definitely debuting here, or all sorts of different versions, maybe even Primite Evilsworn. Just an idea. But for the players out there that want the most up-to-date Primite Runick deck list, I got you. We have the link above where I actually go more into depth of why I chose which cards in the deck to play and how they are actually utilized with one another. But as always, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.